At the front page of The Guardian, Assad snipers target Syrian children, says the UN, and there's a photo there of journalist Edith Bouvier, who, as we've been seeing this morning, issued a desperate plea for help. Now, a lot of papers are still reeling from the death of two other journalists, Mary Colvin and Remy Ochlik. They died when a rocket hit a house they were using as a makeshift media center, and The Guardian actually has a chilling eyewitness account from another journalist who was in the same house with them when the blast occurred, Javier Espinosa, who's a journalist from El Mundo. Now, he was in the same room, but he happened to be hiding behind a wall at the time, and so that's what saved his life. And he says, in the chaos of war, destiny can be just a matter of centimeters. And a lot of papers are trying to find out if the journalists were actually deliberately targeted. There's an article here in The Guardian. It tries to see what kind of evidence there is about this. Now, Nicolas Sarkozy has alleged that they were assassinated, but according to this article in The Guardian, the only evidence there really is what another French journalist, Jean-Pierre Perrin, said, that a couple days before, journalists had been warned that they'd be killed if they were caught. There were also accounts that the Syrian army was targeting any houses with satellites, so nothing 100% sure. That's the only evidence there is so far.
Okay. Well, a lot of papers are also covering that conference that's happening today in Tunis, aimed at pressurizing President Assad and forming some kind of political change.
That's right. There's an interesting article in The Independent that looks at what's next. What are the options that this, this group of friends of Syria actually has? And basically, according to this article in The Independent, there are four options. The first is military intervention that would obviously bring an immediate solution, make Bashar al-Assad pay attention. But it seems like it's off the agenda. Even the Syrian opposition is against any kind of Libya-style airstrikes, because this could also spill over into neighboring countries and spark a broader conflict. Now, another option would be to arm the rebels, but they appear to be divided, and this could turn against the West in a kind of Afghanistan scenario. The third option would be a humanitarian corridor, and that's one of the key issues that's going to be discussed today in Tunis. But that would require a temporary ceasefire, and to put that in place, that would require foreign troops on the ground. And the fourth option would be more economic sanctions, but that takes time, and it tends to affect Syrian people more than the regime so far. There's also an interesting editorial in The Independent by Adrian Hamilton, who says that intervention is not the way forward. What the West should do is isolate Syria. To quote the article, he says, what the Tunis gathering needs to make clear to the Syrian people more than anyone else is that Assad's days are over, that the country's neighbors, so by that he means the EU, Turkey, and the Arab world, no longer recognize Assad's regime. So according to him, China and Russia aren't important. What matters are Syria's regional allies. But of course, this is kind of a long-term solution. He does admit there's no magical solution, so it's unclear what their immediate action could be.
Indeed. And the International Herald Tribune on that point has been looking at one of the reasons why things are so difficult for the international community in terms of acting. And that's because the Syrian opposition is so fractured, and it's been almost a year now since the beginning of the uprising.
That's right. It's a really interesting piece, because this is one thing that people today are going to try to do is to figure out how to kind of prop up the Syrian opposition. And according to this article, the main problem is that the Syrian opposition is just extremely divided. They're so divided that they can't get any work done. To quote this article, it says that the opposition is basically a fractious collection of political groups, exiles, and newly forged activists, and they're all divided along ideological, ethnic, and sectarian lines. And this isn't some kind of mix that should be celebrated as a mosaic, a Syrian mosaic. It's actually something that's meaning that the Syrian opposition just can't move forward, and they end up bickering more amongst themselves than actually getting any work done. For instance, there's an activist that's quoted in this article who escaped Syria and started working for the coalition and quit in disgust because she said that they fight more than they end up working.
Okay, thanks very much indeed, Florence Benamino, for that look at today's international newspapers. Well, it's time now for a reminder of today's top story.